Hey guys, still here. Today I have a very different video. It's not going to be gaming today, it's going to be an analytics review. And I know that might turn a lot of you off, but I suppose there are some people on, maybe other fellow YouTubers, who are well, curious about what happens behind the scenes. I want to compare their stats to mine. Now, I am by no means an average channel. It's very hard, I think, to pick an average channel because every channel has its own audience, every channel has its own size that ties into stuff, the own niche. Maybe you do videos of a very specific genre, maybe you do videos that appeal to a very specific audience. Your click-through rates, your impressions, all of that stuff will vastly differ. Now, for the uninitiated, you have a couple of very important metrics in YouTube. One is the impressions, so how many times were your video thumbnails shown to viewers, and those can be showing up basically anywhere. If you go to youtube.com, you can see what videos are recommended in my case, so this would count as an impression for particularly this video. I'm not clicking it, but it is shown to me as a video that I might like to watch. You have those on the main page, but you also have them over here on the side. You have them sometimes at the end of a video when creators have those boxes. Sometimes you get that little row at the bottom of the video that says, hey, you might want to watch this one, or that one, etc. So that's impressions. And then you have the impression click-through rate. Based on when when somebody has seen an impression of your potentially interesting video, do they actually click on it, yes or no? And that's what I want to make this video about. What's your impression click-through rate? Now, the importance of this is that the higher the click-through rate, the more likely it is that people watch your video, so you get more views. And also, I believe that videos which get a really high click-through rate are more likely to get recommended by YouTube's algorithm, although I could be mistaken about that. YouTube's not very straightforward about what their algorithms do, how they work, what factors into them. But I wouldn't be surprised if click-through rate or CTR is actually really important. Now, it's not so much that having a massive click-through rate also means that you're going to have a massive amount of views. If I sort just by impressions click-through rates, you're going to see that on some videos, or one video rather, I got a 33% click-through rate. But that makes sense because it was sent very specifically to my Patreon supporters, and there were only 3 impressions. Other people just could not see it. So an unlisted video like this, or a video that's shown only to community supporters, is something that's going to have a massive click-through rate, but is not very likely to get a lot of views. 3 impressions, 33% click-through rate, 4 views. So somebody watched it twice, I guess. So having a high impression click-through rate does not mean you get a ton of views. Because if I go back to impressions, you can see that my Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts video actually got a pretty damn low click-through rate. Only 1.6%. And yet, it was shown to 2.8 million, it was not shown to 2.8 different million people, but it got 2.8 million different impressions. Now, I don't know how much time you spend on YouTube, how many videos you watch per day, but the more time you spend, the more likely you are to get impressions. And let's say if I just scroll through everything that I have over here, now I'm generating impressions for these particular videos. And since YouTube wants you to stay on YouTube, this thing is going to keep scrolling till either my mouse dies or my finger gets too tired to scroll, because YouTube will continue to generate new thumbnails, or rather new impressions of videos that I might like. Now, what could I have done different here with the Yamato vid? I could have generated a different thumbnail for it. The thumbnail is the small image that you get that shows you what is likely going to be in the video. Now, this video was published on November 26, 2019, so last year. It got a fairly high amount of impressions, but I'm not too happy with the impression click-through rate. So what I could, maybe rather should have done, is generated a different thumbnail that got a better, let's say, more information about what's actually going on in the vid, or something that's more in your face. Now, the software that I use, if you want to call it software, is called Canva. And in Canva, you can see all of my different templates, all the stuff that I make. So for example, this is from a video that came out very recently, notably today. That is, if you're watching this on February the 11th. This is the H class. And this is a video from Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. Now, the video is currently too new to actually look at how much click-through rate I got, how many people have viewed it based on the impressions. What I do now is have a big image on the left that passes through the rest of the text. I have a color for each different game. I then have the title of the game, which is just 2 layers of text over each other, and then I have my Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts war game, whatever logo for a game I have over there. I think that the Yamato vid could have benefited from that particular format. Just having something that looks a little bit more interesting. Now there are other vids who do significantly better. For example, Transport Fever 2, how to make money with planes. This thumbnail I think is already better because it says exactly what you're going to find, because it's going to tell you how to do X, Y, and Z. This one doesn't. It just says Yamato and a half. Okay, fine, but what can I expect in the video? A big ship? Am I going to be sunk by a big ship? Do I get lessons on how to build a big ship? This is something that I should have done different. I should have done a different title and I should have done a different thumbnail. This one is much more likely to get clicked because it got, or at least that's my theory on it, it has a background of Transport Fever 2, an image that can be recognized from the game, which is also what the video is about, notably a plane. And it has the title that says how to make money with planes. Now, if you were to view this like this, you can see that the length of the video, 20 minutes, 24 seconds, is actually overlapping with the text. But if I were to get it in my recommended vids, that, let's say here, for example, the meanwhile, then the length of the video, so 455, is very small, relative. So I don't think that you can really get a good read on how much text would be taken up by that particular information field of length of the video. Now let's see if we have any good click-through ratios. And by good, I consider it 5% or better. Keep in mind, this will differ from channel to channel. Some channels are really big and get shown to everybody. Some channels maybe have a super loyal audience, and the moment that a video shows up in the recommended feed or somewhere else, they immediately click on it, which means that your click-through rate could be higher. Now, for some reason, and I don't know exactly why, the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts 10-year age gap video really got a good click-through ratio of 5.1%. So that means that about 1 in 20 people, or 1 in 20 click on the video based on what they see. And keep in mind, I have about 30,000 subscribers, yet the video is shown 480,000 times to various different people. And also, very notable, this means that somebody can get this video of mine shown 15 times before they actually click on it. Maybe you get channels that you watch every now and then YouTube suggests a video to them, but you go, nah, that one's not too interesting. And YouTube will suggest it again, so that's going to be a different impression. And you might get 5, 10, 15 impressions before you actually click on it. This one, however, got a pretty good click-through ratio of 5.1%. I am not exactly sure why, although I think having the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts as a black with a white outline might have helped. And then the 10-year age gap, so white behind or white in front of a black outline, it really demands attention, or demands attention more than the Yamato vid. Because this one is just plain black text and then plain white text. Also, this was January 19, 2020. So it has been up for almost a month. And it got 32,000 views, a good amount of watch time. So this thing has been watched for 4,493 hours and got a total of 28,000 unique viewers. This is also something that I haven't highlighted yet. You can get 32,000 views, But if I only get 28,000 viewers, unique viewers, that means that somebody has watched the video more than one time. So from something, or from some people, I might have gotten 1 view. I might have gotten 3 views because they wanted to watch it again for some reason. What else do we have here? Ooh, the 1.8 didn't do too well. 1.8% click-through ratio. AI versus AI. You can see that the video was shown somewhere in the same region as the 10-year age gap. It's 479 versus 356, so it's not that massive of a difference. It's about 25%. But this thing got a click-through rate that's almost 3 times this one. And that means that it got 32,000 views versus 9,000 views. The amount of watch hours are also far, far less. So what I should have done here, or could have done different, is have a different title versus thumbnail. Because you can put different information in the thumbnail relative to the title. And for example, in the title put also maybe gameplay or can the AI beat the AI, something like that. Let's see, what other ones do I have that are really decent? Oh, here, 5.4%, how to use signals. Published November 28. Now, this is a video that was published before Transport Fever 2 came out. And I wouldn't be surprised if it got a fairly decent click-through rate. Whoa. Look at that. This is the amount of impressions that the video got. So it got a massive amount of impressions on the first day. And then it crashed. It just went from 10,000 to 2,400 to 1,500. And then it's slowly going back up again. And I believe this is round around where the game came out. I believe it was December 12th. So people start playing it. There's more demand because people want to know how to use signals. It goes down a little bit, then it goes up. Sunday, December 15th and Monday, 16th. And it just gradually goes down again. The impression click-through rate, interestingly, is not as good on the first day. So on November 28th, I get a click-through rate of 2.7%. And then on December 8th, I get an 8.5% click-through rate. On a day where it was actually not that well presented. So only 2,400 people saw the video as showing up. But of those 2,400, or well, not 2,400 people, but 2,400 impressions, 8.5% of the people who actually saw an impression clicked on it. Which means that this one did actually really quite well. Now, what I could have done better over here is made the thumbnail a little bit more interesting. I think it's rather bland, especially if you view it like this. This is the size, I guess, that you could expect on a smartphone or other mobile device. And it just does not have a whole lot of contrast. The tutorial text sort of blends with the train to some extent. How to use signals is black, which doesn't always make it that easy to read. I could have done this just in plain bold red. And that is something that I am going with on the newer Transport Fever vids, like this one, Industry Expanded. Black text on the background, white text in front, so you get this sort of outline effect. And then Transport Fever 2 in large text, but also way more resources. So, okay, this is the mod title. What can you expect from it? Well, you can expect way more resources. Okay, great. Then I'm going to click on it. So I'm trying to make these things more appealing. Okay, what else can we find? What other videos did really well? Overall, it's just hovering around the 4% marker. Now, let's do it in reverse. Let's see what videos got the highest click-through rates. And let's say if they don't have 20,000 views, I'm not going to watch them. Or I'm not going to consider them. So this one's right on the edge. Stormworks. Getting started in career advanced mode. How to reverse. It is not exactly a great thumbnail because it doesn't really show how to reverse. Or rather, I was quite struggling for Stormworks how to figure out, okay, what is a picture that shows reverse? How do you show a reverse on a ship? Because what I'm explaining in the video is how to use gearboxes to set up a reverse gear for your ship. And apparently, if people search for it, because I don't think that this one's going to be shown particularly often, if they search for it, it matches up with what they need to learn, or what they want to learn. And then you get that 12% click-through rate. If I were to make this thumbnail now, I would probably have the same sort of layout as I do with UAD, Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. I would have the logo over here. I would then have the title over here, how to reverse, for example. And then maybe something from Stormworks over here with a ship that, let's say, has the wake on the front of the ship. So you can actually sort of see the ships going backwards. All right, what others? 12,000 views, Stormworks. How to get started with a cargo bay. I should be revisiting these vids because their click-through rate is pretty good, but I think it could be better. And also, some of the techniques that I've shown in this video no longer work. Which means that it's potentially going to be getting a couple more dislikes. Now, there are also some videos that I have published a long time ago, which for some reason still are getting shown as suggested vids. Like this one. Wargame Red Dragon, The Olden Days. Well, that's a very apt title because it was published on September 6th, 2016. So that's a little over 3 years ago. 3.5, near enough. It still had about 2,000 impressions in the last 90 days, and 10% clicked on that. So that makes me curious, why do people click on that? What happened here that made people actually interested in this video? Now you can see that impressions are down 57% relative to the previous 90 days. So the period that led up to November 13. Views are down by 52%, which, well, I'm still surprised that it's getting as many views as it is, because it's a video that's 3.5 years old, and most of those actually get very, very few vids, or very few views. Most views are just gotten in the first couple of days. Let's say the first 2 to 3 days, maybe the week. That's when you get content that gets a lot of views. Exceptions being tutorials. Tutorials which stay up to date, they still get traffic. And they usually continue to get traffic. Now, let's see. Impressions, 2,000. 65% from YouTube recommending your content. 10.4 click-through rate, which means you got 206 views from the impressions for a total of 34 hours of watch time on this one video. Why exactly people still find this thing and watch it, I don't know, because YouTube doesn't always show it anymore. Ah, here we go. Traffic source, suggested video. The mighty SU-27M is a video that generated most of the traffic. So, it was most suggested, this video, The Olden Days, on the mighty SU-27M video. So this thing, and I know that this is a popular video, this thing is actually driving most of the traffic towards this other video. That's interesting. Now, I know that this vid is still quite popular. 44,000 views. Let's have a look at the analytics. September 4, 2016. Last 28 days, 1,100 views. What the hell? That's interesting. 23,000 impressions. 3.5% click-through rate, which is slightly higher than the previous... this previous 28 days, previous 90 days. So 3,000 views over the previous 90 days. Reach, 3.5% click-through rate, which is fairly average. And how did this one get its traffic? From a Google search. Oh, sorry, that's 0.3% of your traffic. Never mind. 54%. Got it through Wargame Red Dragon Disgusting, SU-24M, which is also under aircraft. This is about aircraft. This is not about aircraft, but then again, all of these are very slow or very low rates, very low percentages. Anyway, long story short, what I'm trying to work out is how to make better thumbnails. How to get that average click-through rate to go higher. Because the higher it gets, the more views you get. And keep in mind that, let's say that if the Yamato and a half video had not had 1.6%, but let's say that it had about 3%, or let's say 4%. At 4%, the Yamato vid would have gotten a lot more views. I'm going to have to do this by actually clicking the calculator, because the numerical dot on my numpad is the start for the recording button. So it's slightly inappropriately placed at this point. Anyway, let's say 0.04, which is 4%, times 2.8 million views, or rather impressions. That would have gotten me 113,962 views. So that is the critical importance of just having a higher click-through rate. Now, what I have noticed is that YouTube is not entirely forthcoming about views versus impressions. Because according to them, impressions times click-through rate, well, you could arguably say it would make the views, right? 1.6 of 2.8 million is about 65,000, right? Not really. Not really. Because I found that there is a discrepancy in this. There. 1.6% of 2.8 million is not 65,000, it's 45,000. So I'm not exactly sure what YouTube is potentially not showing me here, because this should be higher, the amount of views, unless people watch it twice. Because I'm just not seeing that 45,000 number anywhere else. So I must be missing something. YouTube might not be showing me all this stuff. I'm not exactly sure why it is or isn't. YouTube still works in mysterious ways. Anyway, point of this video, I wanted to do a bit of analysis on what my click-through ratios are and how I can improve those further. YouTube won't tell you how to improve your CTR further. It just doesn't. It's going to tell you how much click-through ratio you got on your recent vids, which is going to be the last thing that I can show you. Because I am kind of curious what my recent videos did. Let's see, that's a whole lot worth the chosen. That's XCOM. Where are my recent videos? No, it's not the live part. That's the thing. YouTube always shows your scheduled videos first. Ah, here we are. Industry Expanded has been live for about 24 hours at this point of recording. Near enough. I might not have the reach stats yet. Oh, here we are. 41,000 impressions, 5.6% click-through rate. So that's decent. All right, how about the Maginot line from Wargame? Maginot line, reach, 73,500 impressions, 6.3% click-through rate. So that's a lot better than the average. How about Hood versus Bismarck? Now for these three videos, I really focused on making appealing titles and thumbnails and making sure that these things actually get more impressions or more interest. This one didn't do as well. 3.6% click-through rate. So maybe I should have done something different with the title here. I wonder if the counterpart is doing any better. Bismarck versus Hood. Reach? Slightly. 192,000 impressions, but keep in mind, this one has been up for longer. This one has been up since Friday, February 7, as opposed to the Hood versus Bismarck, which has been up since Sunday, February 9th, so 2 days after. Click-through rate is slightly higher, 4.2% on the Bismarck versus Hood, as opposed to Hood versus Bismarck, 3.6. Anyway, long story short, I need to focus on this stuff, and if you have any good ideas, let me know down below in the comments. I'm open to suggestions, but of course the more experience that you have with designing these things, the more weight your suggestion carries. I'm open to experimentation, I'm open to sharing these stats, so if you have any questions or anything that you particularly like to see, then by all means, let me know in the comments as a question and I'll see if I can oblige. And aside from that, I hope you found the video interesting. I don't imagine this one's going to get a lot of views, but we shall see how it goes. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you found it useful, and I shall see you soon for more of the regular gaming content very soon.